Globalization. You hear that word thrown around all the time, right? It's used to explain pretty much everything, from the phone in your pocket to the price of gas. But what does it actually mean? In this explainer, we're going to build a really clear mental model for how our interconnected world actually works. Let's dive in. And look, this isn't just some dusty academic term. The sociologist Zygmunt Bauman argues that globalization might just be the single most important change in all of human history. I mean, think about that claim for a second. That's huge. It kind of suggests that understanding this isn't just interesting, it's absolutely essential for understanding our own lives.
So, okay, if it's that important, why does it feel so vague sometimes? Well, the good news is it doesn't have to be. We can actually break it down into a few core ideas that make it all click into place.
To do that, we're going to use a guide. Our roadmap comes from sociologist George Ritzer's fantastic book, Globalization: The Essentials. We're going to borrow his core metaphors to build our understanding from the ground up.
So here's the plan. First, we'll look at how our world went from being solid to liquid. Then we'll see what that means for the flows that define our era. After that, we'll trace the journey from a heavy to a light world. And finally, we'll talk about the barriers and friction that prove the world isn't quite as flat as some people think.
All right, let's jump into our first big idea, this concept that the world has gone from solid to liquid. Now, to really get what liquid means, we first have to understand what it replaced, how things used to be.
In the pre-global era, things were defined by what Ritzer calls solidity. Basically, people, objects, information, they were all kind of hardened into place. They didn't move around much. And the ultimate symbol of solidity, at least in the 20th century, the Berlin Wall, a massive concrete structure designed for one single purpose: to stop movement, to keep things solid and to keep them separate.
And this comparison really paints a clear picture, doesn't it? The solid world had things like the Berlin Wall, really fixed borders, and local production. The liquid world has the internet, global finance that zips around the planet, and borders that are way more porous. You can just see how the fundamental state of things has shifted from being fixed and contained to being mobile and, well, free-flown. And this brings us right to the heart of it all, the definition of liquidity. It's really just the increasing ease of movement, of people, things, information, you name it, in the world we live in today. Ritzer argues this is probably the single most important feature of globalization. So what does it mean to be a liquid in this sense? Well, just think about actual water. Liquids don't really hold their shape, and they're super hard to stop once they get going. A perfect example of this is global finance. We're talking about billions of dollars moving across the planet in the blink of an eye. It's a purely liquid form of capital that can just melt away old barriers like national borders. Okay, so this idea of a liquid world leads directly into our next concept, because if the state of our world is liquid, then its defining action has to be flow. Flows are pretty much what they sound like. They're the natural result of all that liquidity. They're the actual movements of people and products and data, all made possible because those global barriers we talked about have become so much more porous, so much easier to get through.
And these flows are happening all around us, all the time. You see it in the movement of people, like migrants looking for new opportunities. You see it in objects, right? The iPhone in your pocket is a perfect example of a complex global dance of parts and assembly. You definitely see it in information, like a viral video that can circle the entire planet in just a few hours. And this last one's really fascinating, the flow of places, where immigrant communities recreate a little piece of their hometown thousands of miles away.
Okay, so that raises a question. Why did everything become so liquid in the first place? What happened? Well, our third metaphor helps explain it. It's the big shift from a heavy world to a light one. Just look at the evolution of a book. Back in the 15th century, the Gutenberg Bible was this super heavy, multi-volume thing that was incredibly hard to move. Fast forward to the 20th century, and we've got the light, easy-to-ship paperback. And today, an ebook is totally weightless. You can download it instantly, anywhere on Earth. Information has literally shed its physical body. So here's the crucial part. This shift isn't just about books. It's about our entire economy. We've moved from an industrial era of heavy things, factories, machinery, physical products, to a world where the economy is increasingly weightless, dominated by data, software, and ideas that move at the speed of light. But, and this is a huge but, we have to add a layer of nuance here. If everything is liquid and weightless, does that mean the world is perfectly flat, with zero obstacles? No, not at all. And that brings us to our last concept, barriers, breaks, and friction. As the legendary financier George Soros points out, the system has created a very uneven playing field. The flows of globalization don't move equally for everyone or in every direction. There are still structures that get in the way.
Now, what's really interesting is that some of these heavy, solid structures are actually designed to speed things up, but only for certain things and certain people. They act like channels that direct the flow. Think about it. Intercontinental airline routes are fixed paths that make travel faster. Global supply chains are incredibly complex systems designed to move goods efficiently. Those undersea cables that power the internet, they're the physical pipes that our weightless data flows through. These things don't just happen randomly. They're channeled through massive infrastructure. And then, of course, you've got the exact opposite. You have these massive, heavy structures built for the express purpose of blocking or slowing down or stopping flows altogether.
Some of these are really obvious, like border walls and customs checkpoints. Some are digital, like China's Great Firewall that blocks the flow of information. Some are economic, like trade tariffs. But some of the most powerful barriers are the ones that are less visible. Social structures like class, race, and gender inequality, or the huge digital divide between rich and poor countries. These things effectively block opportunities and mobility for billions of people.
Which brings us all the way back to that big, famous question that people love to ask about globalization. So, is the world flat?
Well, based on what we've seen, the answer has to be no, not really. A much better way to picture it is like this: a turbulent, churning ocean of liquid flows that are constantly on the move, but are also constantly crashing up against the heavy, solid structures of borders, rules, and inequalities. It's a really dynamic and often messy process.
And that leaves us with one final thought to take away from all this. You now have a really powerful mental model for seeing the world around you. So as things inevitably get even faster and lighter and more liquid, the question becomes, what new structures, what new walls, both the ones you can see and the ones you can't, will we decide to build next?